Hello, everybody watching live on twitch.com. Wait, what is it? Twitch.tv/Vince Russo live and watching our stream on YouTube live. I am here with the great Billy Body of the DirtySheets.com. Billy is the provider of news in the world of sports entertainment before it happens. Man, Billy, I've been quoting you a lot on a lot of my other shows this week on stuff that you said, stuff that has come to fruition. You send me documentation each and every week of stories that you gave out here that have been repeated. Man, I don't know who your sources are, bro, but I hope you give them a bonus, bro.
Well, we do. We put the bets down for them. That's the thing. They find it difficult to. So as I revealed on one of my other shows, one of the interviews I did with you, these guys are being done a favor at my end through a contact that I put them in touch with, and it's easy to get the news. It's obviously one thing I made clear is that it's third party news. It's not directly me talking to someone most of the time. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it will come from a wrestler I talk to. Sometimes it will come from a couple of camera guys I talk to, or sometimes it will come from someone in creative. But mostly it comes through a guy who's getting down some action for these guys, and then he talks to them about the news because he's a fan as well. But one of the things that we've really seen, especially from doing this show with you, is that everything we talk about, there is a 3 or 4 day waiting period before we record and then put it out. And then as soon as we put it out, that then becomes news that is widespread and stolen by these sites. I've been saying it for a long time, Vince. I've been saying it for about 2-3 years. I was like, this was here first, this was here first, this was here first. It even got to a point where I was out at a meet and greet and was in a hotel where The Undertaker was. And I snapped a photo of Undertaker and Marty Jannetty on my camera phone and put it up on my website just to say what a crazy gathering this is. If you know Jannetty's passed over the last 10 years or 20 years even, and what he's been involved in, and the fact that The Undertaker is quite a cool guy in terms of he doesn't care about any of that shit that Jannetty's been involved in, and still hung out with him at the bar in Liverpool and spoke to him for a couple of hours. I snapped a picture from my site, and it was stolen by Ringside News from the Patreon page, and they put their logo. So I put my website on it, and they made an even bigger banner to cover up my website name. That is the level of plagiarism and theft that we deal with. And I used to get so worked up about it, Vince. I would like throw shit around and go on phone calls and go on like four letter tirades and about how angry it made me. But as I always said, if I want to be cited and become this this source that everybody credits, I must conform, and I must do a different podcast, and I must have an opinion that's in line with what is expected in this social justice warrior environment that wrestling's become. And I won't do it. I'll let them steal my news and I'll put it behind a paywall because I'll be fine.
Well, Billy, listen, I want to break down exactly what you're saying because it makes sense. And at the end of the day, business is business. Listen, we take a guy like Meltzer, and, you know, Meltzer will tend to make you believe that he has all these friends. I mean, he's always dropping names, bro, and he's got all these friends in the industry. The only friends in the industry Dave Meltzer has are literally the marks who give a shit about what he rates their fake fights. That's it, bro. And you're literally talking about, 20-something-year-olds that get off on, grown-up fights in a ring that they used to have in their living room with their freaking brothers, and actually put stock in a guy reviewing their match who has never laced up a pair of boots. That's who Dave Meltzer gets information from. Beyond that, I mean, bro, you can read what I say about him. Pritchard, Bischoff, I mean, even Cornette and the boys. He's a laughingstock of the industry, of anybody that looks at wrestling as a business. Listen to what Billy just said. Billy has a betting site. That's where Billy makes a good portion of his money. Basically, Billy's getting information from people that are on the scene, people that are know, and they're giving the information because they're getting something from Billy in return that's valuable to them. That's why it makes sense. I mean, my God, Billy, what could Dave Meltzer offer anybody that's valuable to them from a monetary point of view?
Well, I used to also be their event organizer in London as well when I was working in the club nights. So whatever city would be in, they could contact me and we could set them up with a club or a bar or a strip club, mostly strip club. So that's what I did for a long time. Off the back of, after doing Big Brother, I became a club promoter because somebody sold me the idea that it's difficult. You're not going to transcend into a higher level celebrity. This is it. But what you have inherited from this TV show will be a database that you will have forever. Obviously, the monetary value of that database changes because as the people get older, the things that you can push them towards changes. Like, so when I did Big Brother, a lot of my database was 18 to 30, and these guys are now actually the 18-year-olds will now be 30-year-olds, which is scary. But at the time, it was perfect to go into club promoting because these people wanted nights out in London, and I could set that up for them. And when the wrestlers came around, it was easy to hook them up with everything, and not just wrestlers. That's just where the camera guys and production teams and writing staff and other people come in. So throughout the last 10 years, I've constantly met people, and the information really grew through this chance meeting that we had in New Orleans in 2014, which I spoke about because I was sitting there with a betting guy who's heavily involved in the US books, and he was talking to those guys about wrestling, and then that really benefited me massively and moved me on to the next level. And as I always say, I really only started to cover the news as a spoof because I feel how you do, because it was alarming to me how much these guys got stuff wrong. I was sitting there reading a report and watching a Raw where I knew CM Punk was not going to come out, but even I knew the hype of Dave Meltzer and knew that he reported it. And I thought to myself, surely this guy isn't going to hang his balls on the line to this extent. Surely he knows something. Surely I'm wrong, and the people that are telling me stuff are going to be wrong. And he's going to walk out tonight on this show, which is 2 weeks before WrestleMania. They had a show in Chicago, and Meltzer reported that he would be back on it. And I think that was the turning point where I just thought, I'm going to do this because that is a really embarrassing thing to get wrong. And I figured that I was sitting there with the correct information, keeping quiet. And that's when we really started to give out news, first on Steel Cage and then on Dirty Sheets.
Yeah, but Billy, listen, I mean, how many times does Meltzer say this? Plans change, Billy. Those were the plans. And at the last minute, the plans changed. Come on,
yeah,
Billy.
I think a guy who wasn't talking to them and then went on to subsequently bash them on a podcast with Colt Cabana talking about their doctors and everything. When you hear that podcast, you know that there was no communication at all between the two parties once he decided to leave. There was that wasn't a thing. And the fact that he got that so incredibly wrong, I think was a point where I decided to do this. But as I said, things will just continue to get stolen. I think I now like being on as many platforms as possible in terms of not just doing stuff through the Dirty Sheets and putting on a paywall. I like coming here and doing this stuff on YouTube. We're not going to give out fresh news here because you have to go onto the other side of the paywall. But I like to do the recap because last week's show, we covered a lot of stuff, and we day by day, we saw it getting stolen. Now, if I give out 4 stories, Vince, and one of them comes out, you can give that a pass and you can say, okay, I've got a source. This person's got a source. It can happen. Like, there's a chance that 1, maybe 2 stories. But we had a clean sweep home run last week of every single base that we covered seems to get out onto the dirt sheet somehow. I was emailing you constantly. I always send Vince these. I just write the tag going stolen, ridiculous, and just put the story underneath. Like, it's not even a conversation anymore. We save it to come on and sort of break it down here, which is better, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, my gosh, Billy, last week the way you broke down, the recording dates, the live show and the tape show, and waiting on test. I mean, you laid out the behind the scenes COVID situation in such a way that you could see it. And you could see it escalating, and you could see, step 1 go to step 2, and then all of a sudden, all these people are infected. People are getting fines. You talked about, Kevin Owens.
That was the big one. It was on the tip of my tongue. That was the big thing.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the thing, Billy. Like that, I swear to God, that's why. Like I always know you're dead on because, bro, I can sit back and I can watch these shows, and bro, I can tell you, I can just tell the guys that are going to stand up to Vince, and the guys that are going to be vocal, and the guys and the gals that are going to do whatever he says. And my God, bro, you could tell. If one guy is going to stand up to him, I mean, Kevin Owens has come across as that guy. And I mean, you reported that here, and then Kevin Owens himself, confirmed it, that he's had conversations with Vince. And bro, you were all over the story.
Yeah, it was my story here first last Wednesday, and then Owens talked about it just after Pat LaPrade, who's his friend, who's a journalist in Montreal, who's friends with Kevin Owens, a wrestling journalist. I don't know if you're aware of him. He had the story first. At that point, I think it got onto Owens' radar where he felt like he may as well talk about it. But we also had information last week, among other things, about SummerSlam and whether Brock was going to be there or not, and the fact that it was going to be in the Performance Center. WrestleVotes ended up stealing that story. They have a reputation for being these revolutionary news guys, but they basically just steal it from me. Suddenly, 3 weeks later, Meltzer, always late to the party, turned around and said that Austin Theory is off TV for the speaking out accusations. I mean, I did that like 2-3 weeks ago here.
Weeks ago, bro.
And he now has got that one. Don't know if he's got it necessarily from me, because unlike other people, when Meltzer reports my stuff, it's usually about 2-3 weeks behind. We usually do have this gap. It's not as instantaneous as some of these websites like Ringside News or WrestleVotes. So Meltzer may have got that by himself, or he does the Meltzer thing where he gets the light bulb in his head and has a theory and then reports theory as fact. That's Meltzer's thing, where he works something out and then says that's a thing.
But let me ask you something, Billy. You are a pretty bright guy, bro. You were a celebrity. You were, on Big Brother. You're a pretty smart guy.
They were a celebrity because it offends people in the YouTube comments here, because they keep telling me I'm no longer relevant anymore.
You'll always be a celebrity in my eyes. Billy, why do you think, like, I want you to break this down for me, because I'm forever looking to answer this question. Bro, why can't these guys like the Meltzers and the Kellers and Sherrers and Alvarez's and all these guys, Billy, what is it about these guys that they cannot cover the industry without being absolute marks? I mean, bro, you come on the show, and the way you carry yourself, the way you report news, the way you put things across, you're providing us information. Bro, it's like when I know you're a big soccer fan. It's like, bro, when I watch baseball analysts, I know they love the game. I understand that, but they're not coming across as marks. They're just coming across as people that love what they do. Bro, what is it about these guys that like they have to act like such marks? Where do they lose that professionalism that you portray?
It's the bubble. It's this bubble that you're in. It's the wrestling bubble that exists inside the WWE, which is why Bruce and Vince can't come up with any good ideas, which is why on SmackDown on Friday, we saw the most horrific and the most embarrassing segment I ever saw in my life. And I was prepared. Listen to how embarrassing this was. Austin likes to watch SmackDown on Saturdays after I take him to football. And we were staying at my buddy's house on Saturday, who was a wrestling fan, who'd been to a couple of WrestleManias from me, lost his interest, peaked around WrestleMania 31. And now he doesn't really watch it too much anymore. And we were staying over at his house, because I was watching the UFC there on Saturday night. And Austin wanted to watch SmackDown, and I was dreading it because I had already watched SmackDown on Friday night. And I actually wasn't watching SmackDown on Friday night, but I saw all these notifications come up on my phone, and a couple of guys in my group were saying, we just saw the worst shit you've ever seen. Like, you need to see how bad this is. So I went downstairs on my DVR, rewound it back 20 minutes and watched that karaoke shit that they had. And I then was trying in front of me while Austin was going on Saturday. He was trying to watch the wrestling, and I was saying to him in front of my buddy, let's just watch it when we get home. Like, he doesn't want to watch that.
Right.
It was really embarrassment that I didn't want this thing to go on TV while my friend was there and would see and know that I watch this and cover this for a living. And that's going to be the same thing that will be replicated through people if guys have girlfriends. And it's always a weird thing when you're starting relationships, because when you watch this and you're passionate about it and you don't just watch it in a casual way, you watch Raw and SmackDown every week and it will come out. That's always a difficult sell to your girlfriend, to the point where they're almost thinking, what else do I not know about this guy? Especially when it's some ludicrous shit that's coming on, like the Viking Raiders, Street Profits stuff that we recently had to see, or if it's this thing that we saw on SmackDown.
Bro, can you imagine if Vince Russo would have written that karaoke segment? Could you imagine if I would have written that, bro?
Well, this is the thing, because I don't think that you're as delusional to put that out on TV, but this was a case of Bruce believing his own hype, believing his own shit, thinking that podcast that he succeeded with Conrad Thompson, he thought he could put all the jokes into the karaoke. And this was it. These was all the stupid songs that he sings along to that podcast. These things that he put on TV are the reasons I stopped listening to that podcast, because Bruce isn't funny. And it's like, I just want the information. And going back to your original question, that's one of the things I do. And it comes from having a media profile from before and having a very serious job now, where I'm still in the media, but I work on a sports gambling podcast, and I have to break down every single game from the EPL in Spain and Italy every week. Now, I understand in gambling, people like to watch and bet on everything. So I give a lean, I give my opinion, and I give a lean, and I make it very clear. I think this might happen. I think this game may go out this way. I think this might happen in this game between these two ties because of this. But at the end of the show, when it comes down to giving my official play, I give my official play. When it comes to my website, lockbetting.com, I take those plays that I like the best and write them up in a way with factual statistics to back up why I'm asking people to invest their hard-earned money into my plays. There's a difference between investing in my opinion, which sometimes can carry some weight because I've been watching the sport for a long time, and sometimes we do have plays there. But it's very, very important to back up everything with stats moving forward, especially when you're covering that kind of thing. And that's the same stance I take on wrestling. Do I have an opinion?
Hold on 1 second. I gotta read this comment because this guy popped me. First of all, Trav FDY, thank you very, very, very much for your donation. He just donated $2. Bro, here's what Trav said. Good luck seducing a woman with WWE programming. Yeah, Billy, I got a
bigger pass with that since I had Austin, because it's kind of like you can pass it off.
Yeah, so kind of like walking your dog in the park. Kind
right.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get the free pass with that. But my point is that from covering something in a very factual way, looking for statistics, and knowing when to give your opinion and knowing when to state facts, and it's the same thing here. This is an opinion show. We clearly give our opinions. I have an opinion podcast on the Dirty Sheets. We talk about Raw and SmackDown on Tuesday mornings. But when it comes down to the Patreon page and it comes down to writing a story about information that I've got, there is no speculative room there in terms of you need to report exactly what they turn around and say to you. Like, that's why when sometimes you ask me a question, I don't have that fear of looking bad when I turn around and you say, actually, Vince, I don't know that.
I don't know, right? Then that's where people will respect you, bro. I say that all the time, and I know you say it, Billy. That's why I know. You don't know how many times Jeff and I do castrating the marks, and I say, can they just not say, I don't know? Like, is that just not in their freaking vocabulary? That's what I like about you, bro. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. You don't try to bullshit anybody. And, now, Billy, it makes sense to me. I love the way you just laid that out with the betting site. You're playing with people's money, bro. So you've been trained to put facts out there and to put vital information because, like you said, bro, this is people's hard-earned money. It all makes sense. But yeah, I mean, bro, these guys, it blows my mind. They can never say, I don't know.
And I think one of the great things that we got right last week, as I was saying to you, I give some stories a pass in terms of saying, okay, some stuff could break out and in an organic way, and it's not necessarily stolen. That happened last week with Bruce Pritchard, where his friend Conrad threw him under the bus and turned around and said, this guy is stressed, this guy is tired, this guy is fed up of the rewrites. And I was saying here on that show that Bruce isn't the answer. Bruce is frustrated. Guys are getting fed up with Bruce. Bruce is getting fed up with them. I think I even said that I did say it because I do a lot of shows and sometimes I try to remember what I said and what. But I remember on this show, we were talking about Heyman. And I said to you, maybe Heyman wasn't so bothered about losing that job because everybody was saying that he was very, very stressed. And we're seeing it again. And now this isn't me. This isn't some dirt sheet. This is, I guess Conrad is Bruce's best friend, but it's certainly a guy that revitalized and revived Bruce Pritchard, because Bruce Pritchard was never getting back in the wrestling industry if it wasn't for Conrad Thompson. And he's going on to an interview with Wrestling Inc. and saying that this guy is massively stressed and tired. And that 100% validates my story, because there's no way that Conrad Thompson is making that up.
No, well, bro, listen, I know because I've been in that spot. Bro, look what happened to Eric Bischoff. And I called it what happened to Eric. Bro, Eric was living in Wyoming. He had a beautiful property, bro. He was having his coffee out on his porch and literally watching wildlife. Then he went from that into the fire at Stamford, Connecticut. And Eric's older than me, bro. Eric's about like 64. And I was looking at that. I'm like, bro, no way. Like Eric is going to, like, literally within 2 weeks, Eric's going to be hit like, what the F did I do? Bro, you cannot be at the age of a Bruce, of an Eric, of a Vince Russo. You cannot be at that age, bro. Bruce is in his mid to late 50s, where all of a sudden now you're going to hand your life on a silver platter to Vince McMahon. I mean, bro, you maybe have 15, 20 years left on this planet, and you're going to go back to serving Vince like you did when you were 30 and 40 years old, bro. That will kill a man. And, bro, Bruce is not in the best of health. No. And yeah, Bruce has had a couple of heart attacks. Bruce is overweight. He's around people that are catching COVID like lunatics. And I mean, my God, bro, I don't know how much you literally have to love Vince McMahon to put yourself in that position. I mean, you've got to love the guy like a father to sacrifice your life like that, bro.
Let me ask you something about him, because you know him personally in close quarters. And I've always wanted to ask this question now. It's actually an opportunity to ask. Does he have this aura where you kind of changes you, where you become this daddy love me kind of character? Maybe not you, but we've heard people say it in terms of, we've heard Ultimate Warrior even say that, oh, he became like a father to me and I wanted his approval. And a number of guys have come out and said, I just wanted to do anything, like I'll do anything for Vince. Undertaker, actually, on that documentary that we just covered. And Bruce seems to be the same, where it's like, daddy love me, daddy please love me. And that seems to be the way that people are around Vince, and he seems to be able to bring that out in people. Did you ever feel that way, or did you ever see other people falling for that? And how does he?
You know what it is, Billy? Here's what it is, and I think there are very few people that can say this. Okay, bro. When you get past all the Vince McMahon bullshit, okay, when you get to know Vince as a regular guy, okay, bro, you like him. You like him as a human being. You care about him as a human being. And, bro, you want to help him. Bro, the thing with me was, bro, I think I've said this a couple of times, but, bro, there were times when I felt like Vince was kind of a father figure. Bro, but that was the intimate Vince. that very few people know. When you get past the bullshit, bro, like I'm telling you, he's a very, very, very likable guy. And you want to help him. Like you really want to help him. And part of wanting to help him, Billy, like honestly is it was twofold for me. Number one, I grew up on his shit. So like when that Monday Night War started, I went back to my childhood and I went back to the shit that I enjoyed. I did not want the WWE to lose. You know what I'm saying? And that was number one. And number two, Billy, it was his work ethic. This wasn't like, bro, I work with a guy like Eric Bischoff. Okay, Eric doesn't like getting his hands dirty. Eric likes being the guy in charge. He likes having people afraid of him. You know, he likes being the czar. Bro, that's not Vince. Vince is the first car there in the morning, the last car to leave. He works his ass off. So, bro, when you're working with a freaking billionaire and you see this guy's work ethic is no different from yours, you really, you earn a great deal of respect because it's like, bro, you don't even have to come to work if you don't want to, let alone be the first one here and the last one to leave. Right. So when you get past the freaking facade, he is a very, very likable human being, bro.
But where's the line, Vince, is what I'm asking. Where's the line where guys do anything that he says, like Undertaker working with a bad hip and getting it changed or whatever, and even like Brett taking less money to stay in the company, and you know, in the end, that he was partly so heartbroken by the screw job, so he says, because he felt like Vince was a second father to him. We hear that sentence all the time: second father, second father. It's always linked to Vince. But when you're told that you're doing a second show, and why don't you just put your kids in with a nanny? I believe he told you. Yeah. What's the difference where you turn around and go, "That's my line. I'm not going to work for you." And whereas people like Bruce come back and risk their life. It sounds like an exaggeration, but everything you've said is right. He's fat, he's old, and there's COVID going around, and he's had previous medical issues. Plus, he had a nice thing going in terms of he resurfaced back into the spotlight. That podcast is doing well, and now he's back exactly where he was 12 years ago. Where's the difference? Because you spoke about respect and admiration, but you didn't address actually where and why that line exists, where you're turning around and going, no, that's it for me. And other people are like, just keep going and going and going.
Because the line is, bro, here's the line. Like I said, bro, if you can peel back the layers, you see that teenage kid from North Carolina who got himself in trouble, whose father wasn't around. You really see that vulnerable guy. You see him when he lets the guard down. But 90% of the time, bro, if you work for him, you've got to eat, sleep, drink, shit, piss the WWE. You know nothing else matters. So bro, like, you know, I knew, God, Vince, you're putting your family on the back burner. You know, like this, your job is becoming number one in your life. I already knew that. So like, I was asking myself this question forever. Does Vince give a shit about me? Like, does he give a shit about me, or am I just the cash cow? When push comes to shove, does he give a shit about Vince Russo? Bro, that question was always in my mind. And that situation with the nanny, bro, he told me right then and there, I don't give a shit about you. All I give a shit about is my business. Your family doesn't matter. Your wife doesn't matter. Your health doesn't matter. Your wealth, none of that matters. All that matters is my company. Bro, at that point, I said, bro, you are not more important to me than my family.
And I always think, and it always comes back to me, one of the great ironies is that despite the fact a lot of guys say that about him and they want to impress him and they want his approval, his own son eventually decided, F this, like, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to go off and do my own thing. And he invested his money in that Japanese company and everything, and went away for a long time.
Billy, I could tell you this about Shane. I had a conversation with Shane a couple of years ago, bro, because Shane really wanted me to come back. And I said to Shane, I said, do you have any idea why I left? I said, why did your father tell you I left? He said, well, my father told me you got a better offer from the WCW. I said, Shane, your father's full of shit. I said, here's why I left. I told Shane the nanny story. It was the first time he ever heard it. First time. You know what he said to me, bro?
Read the dirt sheets then.
Huh?
He doesn't read the dirt sheets.
He doesn't read the dirt sheets. This is what he said to me, bro. This is only a couple of years ago. This is right when he came back.
Right.
He said, Vince, that doesn't surprise me at all. He said, he's like that with my kids. And I was like, I believe that. I believe Vince's grandchildren are not more important to him than the WWE. No doubt, bro.
Yeah, well, and then with all that said, it amazes you what we're seeing on TV at the moment. If it's important, but we'll talk about it on the other side because
Billy, give us a little tease. I don't want you to get into it. Give me a headline. Give me a headline of what they can get on patreon.com/Russo TWC. Just a headline, bro.
Difficult to do a headline. We got some big Undertaker news.
Don't say nothing else. Big Undertaker news. Now, tell me everything about you and what you're doing, because us over here in the States, bro, baseball's coming back a week from tomorrow. Baseball will be back. We can bet on baseball again. Billy, give us all that information, bro.
Well, you can go right here for the wrestling stuff, first of all, thedirtysheets.com. That's where we break all of the stories. As soon as I get the information, I break it down and give a write-up as to what I've been told. And then we come back on this show and me and Vince discuss it. And then a few weeks later, or a few days later, the other dirt sheets steal it from us. But we analyze everything right here. And it's written about, first of all, at thedirtysheets.com. So if you're on thedirtysheets.com, you know already what me and Vince are going to talk about and break down on the other side. But it's always better coming from somebody who's on the inside, which is Vince, who can give it more of a perspective. My betting stuff is over at lockbetting.com, where we're killing in the soccer at the moment. The NBA is going to be coming back. And as Vince said, the MLB. But at the moment, we have a 37-7 record in the KBO.
Wow,
with another 3-1 today. We only actually missed the total of 8 in the Tigers-Lions game by 1 run. Otherwise, we had a 4-0 sweep today. So 37-7 in the KBO, and you can get the KBO and the UFC, where we had a 4-0 week on the 4-0 weekend on the main card, and that's all over at thedirtysheets.com. So it's not just wrestling stuff, but to get onto the wrestling stuff, the wrestling betting picks are available at lockbetting.com. They are on the top tier. But if you just watch wrestling, I know there's got wrestling guys who are not sports guys at all. That's not me at all, but some guys are. All the wrestling stuff is at dirtysheets.com, and you can get the betting picks at the $40 tier. That will give you UFC and AEW and WWE, so you can get your stuff in time for Extreme Rules by going here.
Wait, hold on. You forgot a couple things. The podcast?
Oh, yeah. So our podcast is The Dirty Sheets, comes out on Tuesday. I did mention it earlier. We just basically break down Raw and SmackDown. That is an opinion show. As I said, I try to keep everything separate, and quite clearly on that show, me and my colleague Cav, we will talk about the week in wrestling. And we had a lot to say this week, namely about that atrocious segment on SmackDown. And it almost got me thinking, was it deliberately, and I'm giving him too much credit, was it deliberately so atrocious so people like me would spend a third of the podcast and then come on here just to talk about it again? Is that marketing? Are they geniuses? I don't know, because I've talked about that now 3 times. It was so atrocious that 1/3 of the podcast is actually about that. So you can get that on iTunes. That's the Dirty Sheets. And my son's Instagram as well. I want to give that a little plug. Austin's Toys. Loads of memorabilia and stuff on there. Sometimes you see it in the back of my house. I've changed room this week. There's still some photos and stuff behind me, but yeah, it's mainly toys on there. Mostly autographed toys, coupled with pictures of wrestlers you've met in and around the hotel when I was doing my media. But never do the media interviews, though, that they give me, because they're not worth doing.
Yeah. Well, guys, listen, we're going to go cover all the news now on patreon.com/Russo TWC. We're going to get the news, bro, right here that I promise you're going to get the next 2, 3, 4 weeks right after Billy reports it. Guys, go over to patreon.com/Russo TWC. For me and the great Billy Bate, we will see you over there.